Commander Central, episode 172, and we're going to put a bird on it today. For those of you who watched Portlandia, like in 2011, for those that didn't, it might make sense to say we're going to talk about altered cards. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Ryan.
Ryan Peneff, welcome to the podcast, man. How's it going?
Good. What's going down?
Not a lot. I think we're all trying to kind of recover from some holiday weekend that may have been a little bit rougher on some of us. How did you guys do over New Year's up in Canada?
I was so hungover all day yesterday. Like I said before we started recording, I'm putting the stamp on it. Second worst hangover of my life. I think I lost an entire day.
Oof.
Yikes,
Yeah,
man.
the human body, as it ages, does not handle that stuff as well as it once did.
Yeah,
Not with that attitude. Jeez, come on,
Yeah,
guys.
not with that attitude. I'll get my wife to put an intravenous in me next time. I'll be good to go.
There you go. That's a good plan. They actually offer that in Vegas in some of the hotels. You can go down to the IV station.
Oh,
and,
100%.
next morning.
I thought that Max went to one.
No.
Did you? No. So he might have, but I might have missed that. I wasn't aware.
Well, if
Maybe
you would
next
have
year.
gone
Maybe
your
next year.
intravenous, you would have been
Right,
fine.
yeah, exactly. Maybe next year, if we have too rough of a time down there, we can do that.
Yeah, that's it.
Anything else exciting going on for anybody? Max is a little bit under the weather here, but he managed to fight through it to come record.
Yeah, I couldn't let Ryan run the roof, over here. Ooh.
It's going to take two of us to wrangle him, is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, Canada, moose, something like that.
Yeah, only where it counts.
Well, Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself, let everyone know where they would know you from?
Sure, yeah. My name is Ryan Peneff. I am one half of Commander Cookout podcast. I am that Ryan, not to be confused with Commander Social Ryan Green. I'm Ryan
Yes,
Peneff. I run Commander Cookout with Brando Queering out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's a mouthful, but you don't have to say it. You just have to listen. And I want to say, was it April or May of 2019, I kicked off my own solo podcast called Commander ad Populum, where I take a look at the kind of the community side of Magic the Gathering, not exactly pertaining to Commander, but with an eye for Commander, where I like to highlight, community issues or people out there, other content creators maybe doing good in their local communities.
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of both your shows, but like Cat Ad Pop is a lot of fun because it's something that no one else is doing. There's a lot of Commander podcasts that talk about Commander, and those are all enjoyable. We do one, you do one, but the fact that you do one where you're talking about things kind of adjacent to people playing Magic is really interesting and unique, and I hear things people say on there that they don't say anywhere else. I just really enjoy the thing you're doing there with that show.
Yeah, you know what? Over the last couple months, I've really come to appreciate when other creators say that to me, because as a creator, getting a compliment from another creator is kind of the highest compliment that I can be paid. So thank you.
Well, thank you. To keep kind of talking with it a little bit, that's one of the things. It's really tough to find a niche. I think there's a lot of Commander podcasts out there, and to find a way to do something unique is challenging, and you've really managed to do that. So congratulations to you for that.
Oh, very excellent. Thank you.
And I do think April-ish sounds right, because I remember when Max and I drove down to Magic Fest Kansas City last year, we listened to one of the first couple episodes, or a couple of the first couple episodes. I'm fairly sure the Antiquities set review was on one of the shows we listened to, so that sounds about right for timing.
Oh, wow. And it's funny, you listened to those first few episodes of me doing my solo thing, and you said it was a lot of fun, which I didn't think that it sounded like it was going to be a lot of fun at all, because it was just me by myself talking to the four walls in the studio. So it's kind of funny when I think back that, I was so dull or flat or not very fast, not very interesting. So I feel like it's come a long way. And if other people are out there that enjoy it, then maybe it has. Maybe I'm doing a good job.
I mean, you were doing a good job then, but you definitely have done a real nice job coming along with it, and you've become a pretty good interviewer too. I've enjoyed the guests you've had on there. You've done a really nice job with them as well.
Yeah, and I've had Max.
Yeah.
I'd like a Dana. I'd like a Chris. I'd like to collect a whole set. Same with EDH Recast. I've had a Joey. I think I can kill two birds with one stone with you. Your other show, whole business.
There we go. Yep. Right.
And I would, of course, then need a Matt.
We'll figure it out. We'll do one at some point here for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So how did you and Brando start getting into podcasting? What was the genesis of that whole thing?
Oh man. Well, we had met on the floor of a local game store, one that we still go to today. We met on the floor. I was looking through random Lorwyn commons in like one of those big 5,000 count pizza boxes, and he came and sat down next to me. And it's the funniest story. I bug him about it all the time because I asked him, like, what are you looking for? Like, and I'm not a noob, but I'm just getting back into the game after like a 3 or 4 year hiatus. And I say, what are you looking for? He just is like, whatever, blah, 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 right? And, oh, yeah, if I find one, I'll give it to you. I'm looking for this, right? And I'm kind of looking out of the corner of my eye, and I see that he's like just skimmed past a whole bunch of the cards I'm looking for, and he just like didn't give me any of them. And I was like, oh, that jerk, he's not even helping me, right? So fast forward like a year or two, I'm playing with a couple guys I used to play with in high school, and he says, well, come over and play with this guy that I know named Brando. We play at his house every Thursday. Lo and behold, I go there, and here's this guy that snubbed me, but I gotta like be super nice to him because I'm playing at his house for the first time, right? So that was back in Shards of Alara. Well, like, what was that? 2009?
Yeah, if not earlier.
Yeah, so we played together from whatever that was, 2009, all the way up to when we started the cast in March of 17. And
Wow.
our buddy Clayton, yeah, we've been together for a long time. Our buddy Clayton, one night when we were just sitting around having drinks, talking like some deep Magic stuff, he says, why don't you guys just start a podcast? Brando's been looking for a way to do more at the station because he works at the radio station. And I was kind of just convinced because, I had a couple drinks. I thought it would be fun.
Sure, right. That makes sense.
So that's kind of how it started. And it took, as it does, it takes a month or two to kind of put some ideas together, get some permissions from the station, do some tests, do all that stuff. And then we launched in March.
So how many episodes are you guys up to at this point? You're at like well over 100.
Oh yeah, we're recording 161 on
nice.
Saturday. You guys caught up to us because yours started to do 2 a week, right?
Oh yeah.
Because we've been double dipping. Because we had done the show, the CMC podcast before Commander Central, Max and I, and a third guy, that we did 20-ish shows. And we were midway through that run, I think, when I first saw you guys pop up. So when we started Commander Central, after a short delay anyway, we were, I want to say 20 or 30 behind you at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, do the double dip, we have caught up. But yeah, that's a lot of hours of radio out there with people talking about Commander.
Huge. And you know what? Huge shout out to Brando, because he comes sometimes back to what is his workplace and does a show on Wednesday night with me if we need to reschedule from a regular Saturday, or he'll come in and do a double take on Saturday and then pound out both shows on Sunday, like all day editing, and then go to work on Monday, same place all the time, right?
Ooh,
so
wow.
Huge shout out to him. If he's listening to this, I super appreciate that. Sometimes I make him come into my house, and where we have Studio CCO, and we shoot a bunch of like just corny videos and stuff too. So I know that's really pressing for his schedule, but I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is pretty time consuming. I think, I don't know if people realize it or they get involved, but like it is something that takes up a chunk of your life for sure.
Yeah, that's it. And you're a dad. I'm a dad. Lots of people I interview on Commander at Populum are dads or have some kind of family that they're trying to juggle with Magic and other hobbies, right?
Yeah, that gets tricky. In my case, my son is 12 now, so the amount of time he wants to spend with me is way lower than it was when he was 8 or 6 or whatever. So it's gotten much easier as time has passed here for me to do this, because I don't feel like I'm neglecting dad duties. So that's definitely made things easier on me. But yeah, once upon a time that was way trickier too.
Yeah. He plays Magic now, I think, as well, right?
Yeah, just real like casually we've started playing. My wife has started playing a little bit too, so we're just starting to get into it. for whatever reason, he's really gotten hooked on Dungeons and Dragons lately. So that's what he's been doing a lot of. That's much more interesting to him currently than Magic is.
Very excellent. Very excellent. I was going to say, do you like invite Max and the boys over and you just roll up on him?
just take him down, just knock him. We haven't yet, but that will happen at some point.
Just get Max and Chris just to stomp your wife and kid into the dirt, hey?
Yep.
Welcome to Magic. That's what we say.
Welcome to EDH.
And there'll be no more show.
Right. That'll be the end. Okay, so were there any fun games that anyone played over your Christmas break here? Did anyone get out to the store and do anything interesting?
I got to play with you at your house, Dana.
You did. And I think we're going to start trying to do that a little bit more often, is do a Friday night or Saturday night game at my place with a couple people. So we'll get a few more games in we can talk about there. Actually, we had a couple interesting games. I think we only played 2 and they were both relatively long, but dumb stuff happened in all those games.
Oh, for sure.
I think my favorite one was I think you were playing, was it Brago? Or I think it would have been Tuvasa, and I had a Core Haven out that I was hoping to prevent the attack with, but I had to spend mana for something else, so I did, and I did not have the 2 mana available to also tap Core Haven. Fortunately, before he swung at me, Max imprisoned in the moon one of my creatures, thereby giving me the second mana I needed to tap the Core Haven when he attacked. And I didn't even see it. I didn't notice it till mid-attack, and someone's like, "Why don't you use your Core Haven?" I'm like, "I'm short of mana." So I was like, "Well, he just gave you a land." I'm like, "Oh man."
Yeah, that was with Brago. That was sad because it was like turn 3.
Yeah. You helped me out there. My son even asked the next day, "What were you guys laughing about downstairs so loudly right after everyone got here?" And I'm like, "Oh, I think that was when Max saved me."
Yep.
And then I had a really rough. What was the morph creature that got flipped? The counter was it a spell snatcher, Max?
I think so.
Someone went to return to dust, my Great Henge, and a Greater Good, which you don't want to lose those. So I went to heroic intervention my way out of that trouble, and a third party unmorphed a Kairos spell snatcher, I think it was, to counter the spell. And man, that feels bad. The one thing that's worse than losing a Great Henge and a Greater Good is losing both of those and your heroic intervention. So that was our night. I think that's all I've played since we last recorded was that night, because I didn't go. Tuesday was New Year's Eve, and I was gonna go play, but I wound up. I was just kind of under the weather a little bit and tired out, and I just didn't go. So how about you, Ryan? Any fun games on your schedule lately?
Yeah, you know what? The last time I played was the final F&M of the year for me. I play Commander on Friday nights when they're having, like regular people F&M at the LGS.
Okay.
And I sat down with my Arixmathes, the Slumbering Isle deck against a Rakdos Showstopper, Rune of the Hidden Realm, and Sir Gwyn. Is that the Mardu Night Tribal one?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it is.
And
Sir Gwyn of Ashvale, I think.
Yeah, we had like a 2.5 or almost 3 hour slog fest of just value and life gain back and blockers and blink, and like my Arixmathes is a Simic. I want to say it's a hard control deck, like with all the bells and whistles, right? Force of wills, mana drains, counter spells, blah blah blah, right?
Sure.
And you say you got your commander turned into or imprisoned in the moon. I've done the opposite of that with Arixmathes, where somebody goes like, your commander's a land until it has no slumber counters on it, and they go wasteland your commander, and I go in response, instant, it's a creature now. Like it's the opposite of what happened to you. It happens crazy, and sometimes it's like the Noxious Revival, pay 2 life to get an instant back from your graveyard on top of your library. That's 1. Brainstorm, that's 2. You draw into the instant that you got back, cast it, that's 3. And then you just go until your commander can just crash in for 12 and just kill them.
That's a really cool commander too. I've seen a couple Arixmathes decks, and they've always been a lot of fun to play against.
Oh yeah, well, because he's got 12 power, you can just pack like 1 card things that let you kill your opponent, like Triumph of the Hordes or an Overwhelming Stampede. Just one shot somebody as soon as Arixmathes is like online,
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting interaction in that deck usually too. I mean, it helps you're playing blue green, but like you're playing a blue green deck that has a win condition versus one that's going to kind of dirtle around.
Yeah, and one that isn't just like shark, crab, octopus +1
Right.
counters.
Right.
Simic stuff, right? With 17 different versions of Great Henge.
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised we have not got a new one in Theros so far, because it seems like every set lately we've gotten a new variant on it.
Oh yeah, that's right. When's White gonna get some of that kind of? I mean, White will get the when 10 of your creatures die at the same time, draw one card.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what White's gonna get, right?
I mean, I guess they're probably happy now that the new Heliod just combos with Ballista. They're like, oh, that's good enough. Problem
Oh yeah,
solved.
Commander players are fine. They'll figure it out.
Well, if you want to find us online and reach out and tell us what any fun games you played, how would you do that, Max?
Head over to twitter.com and search at CMDR Central. We're on Facebook at CMDR Central. You can find us Googling us, CMDR Central, and you can also find us over at patreon.com/CMDR Central.
And I think we have a couple of contests wrapping up here as well.
We do. We have 2 winners tonight. So we're giving away on Twitter 3 packs of War the Spark. And the winner of that is Stephen Klein at Stephen_Klein. So we'll reach out to you to get some mailing info to get those out in the mail.
All right.
And our winner over on Patreon was the remaining 7 packs of that War of the Spark bundle that sat in my closet for a while. And the winner of that one is David Grinnis. So congratulations, and we'll reach out to you to get information. And then new contests will be announced next week.
Okay. And I think we have a couple of new Patreon supporters to announce here as well.
We do. We want to say thank you to Jamie H. and Daniel Martin.
Well, thank you very much, you two, and everyone else who supports us on Patreon. Going into the new year, I mean, the support we got last year was insane, and people have just continued to support us with what little they can, or even just from listening or clicking that like button or doing anything they can. It's feels really, really good and helps us keep the lights on and keep the show running, and we can't thank you all enough. It means a lot. You can also find us online at flipsidegaming.com.
Yeah, use promo code CMDR in all caps to get 10% off all orders $10 or more.
Including some of the new sweet Theros Underworld stuff coming out.
Oh, you know what? I'm pretty sure that will be up for pre-order shortly, I'm sure.
So let's just spend a minute here before we get started talking about a few Theros things. Anything that's jumped out at you guys so far? We talked briefly about the Heliod Ballista combo. Any cards that you guys have really liked that we've seen?
Well, I happen to have everything that's been previewed so far. I'm not going to say spoiled, but I'm going to say previewed.
Yes.
Because that's the correct verbiage, I think, now, right?
I think so.
Going through the list, I think that I kind of just, I don't know, nothing's Pause this. Underworld Breach. There it is. Can we call it Red Yawgmoth's Will? Can we call it like the craziest thing for my CEDH Zata deck to come out since, I guess, last year with Fist of Flame? Can we just say that? I'm excited for that one.
It's a really interesting card. I think in like traditional Magic decks, it's going to be a fine. Well, the Yawgmoth's Will comparison is apt. Yawgmoth's Will is a perfectly fair card if you're playing mostly fair Magic. Where it gets problematic is when you're not playing fair Magic, when you're playing a bunch of other broken cards. So CEDH it becomes a much better card, and I think the same thing kind of happens here or in Legacy as well. That's where it's a problem. So yeah, I think the same thing's going to happen here. You're going to see it cast plenty of times in like standard Commander, where it just gets 1 or 2 things back and it's not a huge deal, and it's going to be broken in a bunch of other places.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean the trade-off between Underworld Breach and Yawgmoth's Will is sort of Yawgmoth's Will lets you get it back one time,
right?
And that's fine if you've got a whole ton of redundancy. Then it's really good. Or if you've got a whole bunch of 0 and 1 drops or rituals, right? That's traditionally how it's used, even in Commander. The trade-off with Underworld Breach is going to be, how many times do you want to do the same thing, thereby breaking the first rule of Commander, 1 card each, right? How many times do you want to do it based on how big your graveyard is?
Right. And there's some red decks that can have a pretty huge graveyard, depending on what they're paired with for colors.
Oh yeah, and some red decks that really want to recast, and like how many times do you want to cast the one that gives you a red mana for each tapped land your opponents control?
Right.
How many times do you want to recast your Wheel of Fortune, filling up your graveyard to further fuel your
right.
your Underworld Breach, right?
Gross.
Or that Seize the Day that you can just then use the flashback after you've used it once or twice or 3 times.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, there's so many fantastic cards. That one's going to be really, really interesting to see how it winds up playing out.
Yeah.
How about you, Max? Anything that you've liked a lot that we've seen so far?
Oh, I have like a list of cards I need to figure out how to put into my Tuvasa deck, so I should, probably work on that shortly.
There's a good bit of cool Enchantress stuff so far. I really liked the Pelucranos Unchained that got spoiled, I think, earlier today. That's the kind of fight-based Pelucranos. It's in black-green this time, the Hydra. I don't think it's a crazy strong card, but I think it's a really interesting card, and it looks like it's a lot of fun. So that is one I'm not going to build. I have a Golgari deck already, but I think it's just a super neat design, and I'm looking forward to seeing that as a deck to play against it.
Yeah, I think to sum up the legendary things that have been previewed thus far is to say that they're all very unique design space. They're ones that we don't have previous kind of iterations of.
Yeah. Yes, they've all been ones for the most part. The exception is probably that uncommon Daxos, but which is probably much more a limited draft kind of card. But yeah, the commander ones here are all very, very interesting in the format. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these and see how those decks get built. So it's going to be a interesting 2020. 2019 was pretty crazy, and things are looking to be heading in the same general direction. They are not pulling back on the power, it doesn't look like. Okay, main show topic. We're going to talk a little bit about basically personalizing your deck, but the main thing I want to talk about, since we have Ryan here, is card alters. Since that's what you do during the week, Ryan. You crank out, how many alters a week do you do on average?
Oh, several. Yeah, I avoided mentioning it when I talked about where all the places where you could find me, because I knew that this is what we were going to be talking about. In a week, I do on the Commander Cookout Facebook page, facebook.com/CCO podcast, I do usually 12 altered art cards there. And they range from commons, lands, kind of extended art or full art or alternate art. I run the gambit with them to kind of just get a good kind of snapshot of what I do out there. And then in addition to that, I'll do anywhere between a couple to, 6 or 7 more commissioned custom request pieces.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah, wow.
So about 20 a week.
But now you are doing this though as a job essentially at this point, in part, right?
Correct. I tell people who ask, I am a full-time Magic the Gathering content creator at this point. If you consider alterations to Magic cards part of my content.
And I absolutely do.
Yep,
I mean,
same here.
And you do incredible work. And it's easy to say that to somebody who's a friend and is on your show, but legitimately, the card work you do is as good as anything I see out there that anybody makes.
Thank you.
I mean, absolutely top of the line, fantastic work.
You know what? It's very humbling to hear that, because when I go online or when I go to the circles that I frequent as a card alterist, I am humbled all the time, because there's people out there that do way better work than I do. Maybe they don't do as much of it, or they might not be as visible because they don't have, the double podcast platform or wherever it is or whatever it is. But there are people out there that are far more skilled than me, and I've got some places where I can recommend the listeners at the end of the show to check it out if they're into alters.
So let's talk a little bit about how you started doing this. Do you have a background in art at all?
Not
Like,
really.
did you go to school for it, or is this just something that you've always tinkered around with on your own?
You know what's funny is I went into school and I was a chemistry major, physiology minor, And then I got my first like grown-up job in labor relations and workforce management. Yeah. And now I paint magic cards. So it's like, you never know what you're going to get in life. I think that's lesson 1. Lesson 2 is if you want to do something, just do it. Like there's plenty of tutorials, internet, how-to, TED Talks, DIY stuff out there. And for the most part, that's how I got into it.
Okay.
And that was sort of on the back of some elective courses in university or college, as you guys call it, some elective courses in printmaking and art and design and stuff like that, but nothing like a degree in fine art, or like I don't have my own gallery anywhere like some people I follow on Facebook or Twitter.
Okay, so this is just something that you know, and you've always had an interest in art, presumably, but you were just good at it, and you practiced, and you got to this point where you were able to make these altars just by self-teaching yourself, basically.
Yeah, the 2 things that I'd like to just highlight that you said there is I've always been into art and design, and I practiced. Very few people are just good at anything. You have to practice anything you do to do it, to be good at it, or to be considered proficient at it. So
even if, I mean, it does take, like, there's no amount of practice I could do that would allow me to do the work you do, being familiar with my own artistic skill. But just because you have some innate talent in a thing doesn't mean you also don't need to put in an insane amount of work. Like, there's a reason that LeBron James and Michael Jordan before him had reputations as being insane workers. Those were talented athletes who were also working harder than anybody else in basketball to achieve that level. It's a combination of those 2 things. Skill only gets you so far. Doing the work is what takes you over the top.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what I do, if I was going to take pride in anything that I do, it would be that I am a hard worker. And that is not just for my job or art or the podcast or whatever. It's in all aspects. That was kind of bred into me as part of my upbringing, right? My dad was a hard worker. He had his own businesses. My grandpa was a hard worker. So that was kind of in my blood, as it were, or how I was raised. So whatever I was going to end up doing in life, I was going to be all in, I guess, right? Or to give it my whole.
So when exactly did you start altering cards? Like, what was the impetus to actually do it on your own? Were you just kind of messing around, like, oh, this would be funny to do, Superman as whatever? Like, is that what started it, or was there a plan for you to actually try to do this as a business somewhat?
Yeah, lots to unpack there. I had started, I want to say, my first ever altered card. There's kind of 2 firsts. There's the first one that is what you traditionally think of as an altar, like with the extended borders and stuff. That was a Mirage Rampant Growth. I have a picture of it. I just posted it on the @CadPopcast Twitter. The first kind of card before that was an M10 Goblin Striker that I drew a goblin in a pimp shirt, like getting ready to do a backhand. I don't know if I can say that on your cast, but
that's perfectly fine.
That was like the first time that I tried, well, what do these pencils look like? What does this pen do? You know what I mean? So that was like M10. I got it out of a booster box that I split with my buddy Jeff. And
okay.
I think the impetus for me wanting to start it was the altered art community thread on MTG Salvation from way back in the day.
Sure.
And I just saw some of the old original people that did it that I loved their art, and I thought it was awesome. And, I could buy small paintbrushes and try this. I think it would be fun. Like, I like custom stuff. I don't want to pay for this foil because it's too expensive. So
right.
that was, I think my first was the Rampant Growth. My second was some Zendikar commons, like a Step Lynx or a Plated Geopede. And then I got right into doing Goblin Guides when they were like $3 or $4 during Zendikar. I did a play set of Zendikar Goblin Guides for Brando, and he's got a playset of Lightning Bolts from me as well with the Alpha Beta Unlimited revised art.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
So you said you saw people do this on MTG Salvation, but did you have any other influences through the art community, like maybe artists you might have studied in school?
Not so much. Like I've always been a big fan of a few very I'll say prolific art styles throughout history. Like I love surrealism. People think of Salvador Dali. You could Google him. I like Claude Monet. He is an impressionistic painter. I don't know. It's hard to be. I didn't expect that question. It's hard to be put on the spot and say this is exactly who I look to, right? No, it's fine. But I like classical art. I like Renaissance paintings. I like those huge, like 15-foot wide oil paintings that took like 2 or 3 years to paint, right? I'm super jealous. My sister's got to go to the Vatican, and she's got to see all that. I haven't ever been there yet. So if and when I ever do, I'll certainly be taking pictures with no flash when I go there.
For sure.
Very cool. So what's your favorite personal altar that you've ever made?
Oh, I saw that question in the show notes, and I don't know. I hate to say, like, I don't have an answer. They're all my favorite, but, like, that's not true, right?
You can just say my Spacelands and be done with it.
Oh, yeah, Max Crandel's Spacelands. Yeah, for sure. You know what? I do have a space piece that I go back to more often than your Spacelands. It was a 21 card piece panorama that in the very center had a Damia Sage of Stone for a good friend of mine, Aaron Carr, and it encompassed all of the basics that he had in his 3-color deck, and it was 3 rows of 7, so the thing was huge. It was huge, and it was heavy. It's like 21 cards all taped together, right? And it's a huge space piece. I'll post it on a Twitter, or I'll relink it somewhere. That was definitely one of my favorites. I had been commissioned last summer to do a 5-piece wedding panorama where the couple was getting married in Banff. It's a mountain resort town in Canada, kind of like wherever in Colorado. And they wanted me to paint the chalet with the mountains in the background, and I did. I overlaid a painting of the wedding ring that the groom was giving to the bride on an actual soul ring. That was the centerpiece of the panorama.
Oh, nice.
That one has a special place for me because I'm familiar with the area. I loved that it was a wedding piece. I have a piece of custom art that I did for my wedding. And I got to meet the bride and groom this year in Vegas, and he bought me a big bottle of Russian stout that Brando and I drank on YouTube a few months ago.
Ooh.
Very cool. Did I see a couple of Shadowborn Apostles that you posted just the other day?
Yeah, you did. That is the start of a new project called Project Nightmare Fuel, and there are 30 apostles going into the deck, and they're all nightmare demon anti-religious influenced pieces that have, nuns with their face blacked out and like things that you'd see in nightmares, people hanging on upside down crucifixes, and it's real wild stuff like that. We've got some cool stuff planned.
And they're really different than your usual style too. They're very stylized, and you're kind of using a little bit of negative space. I saw the one that was like a knight with like elk horns. That one was amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? You don't even see, like, inside his face is just, like, maybe one shade of lighter than pure black. One shade lighter just to kind of give the idea that there's a skeleton face in there. They look really sick.
Yeah, those turned out great. And then you had done a few Phyrexian things last year where you messed with Gold Leaf a little bit, too, that really turned out sweet.
Yeah, those are going in the same deck, Project Nightmare Fuel. That's what kind of gave, same guy, my friend Aaron, gave us kind of the idea to do this. And we're going to sit down either in Seattle or Vegas or wherever we link up this year, and we're going to play his Apostles deck against my Animar deck that is 100% all altered, and maybe a Dana and a Max deck, because I know that you guys are kind of getting on the altar train, right? It's a little bit addicting.
Oh, definitely. Just like tattoos.
That's what I always tell people.
These hurt less.
Well, they hurt your pocketbook an equal amount, but they do hurt your physical body way less for sure. So we'll make sure we tweet out a few of these altars of yours as well when the show goes live. If people want to bid on a few of the ones that you have out, I think it's every Thursday you post a new auction on your Facebook site. Is that correct?
That's right. Those are the standard auction pieces, and there is some I guess repeating cards that show up there because they are commander staples, or I know that I can in the time frame that I've allotted myself, I know that I can accomplish the amount of work that I need to do. So those are I call them entry-level altars, but because there's so many staples, it's kind of hard not to continue to do them. And if any of them ever don't sell, they kind of just end up in my own decks. So I'm not super hurt about it.
Right. So every Thursday, go to the CCO Facebook page, and you can see the 8 or 10 or however many it winds up being cards that Ryan has up for auction. And it's well worth taking a look because the work is fantastic. And I myself have wound up, I don't even know how many I've got. I think you have
Lord.
3 right now of mine that I've bought from you that we haven't shipped yet.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? I actually have 2 more that I did for you on a commission that I haven't even told you that are done yet, and I got to send them to you now.
And I think actually in talking about this, we'll for next month's contest, we'll come up with something. We'll get an altar from you for a giveaway for next month.
Yeah, you know what? Max and I, just before Christmas, had started to talk about that. I was just going to send you guys some in the mail, and it just got super busy with CCO. Brando and I did like 8 episodes in 3 weeks, plus we did some YouTube stuff and all the editing that's associated. I'm preaching to the choir, I know, but I just ran out of time. So sorry I didn't get that off to you in time for Christmas, but we'll for sure set something up for February or March or whenever you guys need.
Excellent.
Perfect.
We'll figure out off air. So for all of us kind of generally, what experience with other people's altars have we had? Like, for example, Max, you and I at one point in time got our first altars, I think, from somebody in the shop. Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh, yeah, some guy that knew the shop owner way back in the day. I remember that.
And he just came in and said basically, like, my friend will alter cards, and he had a couple in a binder. These are the ones I've done. Would you like me to alter a card for you?
Yep.
And I think you got a Tajik. Is that what you had done?
I had a Tajik and an original Daxos done, because those are my 2 decks at the time. Okay.
And I had a Glissa the Trader done, and he did pretty nice work, if I remember correctly. I still have the card, but it's not in a deck. So that was my first. I had never really even thought about someone painting or altering a card at that point in time. That was really my first experience with it. And he did pretty good work. But it wasn't, I didn't really kind of pay attention or get hooked on it until a couple Christmases ago. Max got me a Mere Battlesphere that you did, Ryan.
Yeah, that was, I like that one. I love doing that card. I did extra little flying mirrors or whatever in the background.
Yeah, the altered version of that card looks way more interesting than the original. Just like the extra space around the edges really draws your eye into the fact that it's literally a ball of mirror. That was the one that Max got me, and roughly at the same time, a local friend of ours had altered my Vela the Nightclad, or had altered a Vela and then gave it to me as well. So like in the span of 2 weeks, I just coincidentally enough happened to get 2 altered cards, both for the same deck.
Oh yeah, we were networking on the black market alter network
right.
to like stick it to you right at the perfect time to get you hooked, right?
Right. Well, so then I'm like, well, okay, maybe I'll start picking up a few alters for this deck, and yeah, things have kind of now it's gotten out of control. And I think aside from the Vela he did, I think it's all Ryan's alters in that deck. I think it's only been ones from Ryan. And part of the reason for that is whenever I've looked for other alters out there, I've kind of been like, I like the work Ryan. I like Ryan's alters a little bit better anyway, for the most part. And I've gotten so many at this point that I feel like I like the same consistent style. So I've just been like slowly getting alters from you for that deck.
Well, you know what? I do recommend that people go to the MTG Alters and fan artwork community page on Facebook. I know it's a mouthful, but if you just type in like MTG Alters, it comes up. It's got like 29,000 people in the group. It's a huge group.
Really, really, really active. There's a lot of people in there.
Yeah, and there's maybe, I don't want to say 100 posts a day, but are either of you guys part of the group?
I am, yes.
How
many? I don't post it
right now.
How many posts per day do you see that are like new artwork or this or that, right?
A crazy amount, yeah. And there's also a couple of Reddit groups for altered cards. There's MTG Altered, and I think there's one more, MTG Alters, but I haven't really messed around with those at all myself.
I know that's like making me not want to get back onto Reddit, but kind of making me want to get back onto Reddit, and I really don't want to.
Yeah, I try not to spend too much time there. It's a rough environment at times.
No, I like it. I like it.
So you have a fully altered deck, you mentioned, right, Ryan? Is that all one that is it all your own alters in that deck?
Sort of and sort of.
Okay.
Right now, it's sitting at, I want to say 90%, which is an easy
Okay.
number to throw out because commander decks are 100 cards.
Right.
And the reason being is, like, new stuff comes out like the Great Henge or whatever, and then it goes in. But because I'm doing so much other painting and stuff for other people, my stuff kind of falls by the wayside.
Oh, sure.
So before Magic Fest Seattle in June, it'll be done. I actually did 3 cards for it over the Christmas break, and it's sitting at about 90-91%.
Well, that's kind of a good point about this, because that's the real kind of challenge with alters. Number one, it's much more difficult to find an altered card than it is to just find a foil. But number two, when you get those 2 new upgrades per set, or 3 new upgrades, whatever it winds up being, for a deck that, say, you have foiled out, then you just buy the foil version of that card, or hopefully wait till the price drops, or maybe it's just an uncommon and you spend 50 cents instead of 25 cents for it. That's a relatively easy thing to manage. When you make changes to a altered deck, you need to get altered cards. That's a way bigger endeavor to deal with.
That is truth. Like I'm telling you.
but I think that also adds something, like that adds a level of specialness to that deck that is really tough to duplicate with any other kind of personalization you can do.
You know what? From an actual technical standpoint, it does make you a lot more critical of any changes that you make.
Bet.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you know in the first place, this card is going in because X, Y, Z, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G reasons. Not just because, oh, it's cool. Oh, it's 1 mana less. Oh, whatever, right? Oh, I want to try it. No, this is going in because this reason, and then you know that it's never coming out.
Right, yes. I've absolutely found that now with my Vela deck, where I'm like, maybe this card I would normally pull out, but I'm like, but I've got the altar of it. It's not going anywhere. I don't even want to deal with that right now.
Yeah, and you know what makes it even harder is when you're doing what you're doing with a deck that is, it's a tuned deck, but it's one that you are restraining the power on as to not make it hinge closer to CEDH, right? My Animar deck is full CEDH, so I don't get a release or a card or 2 or 3 cards per release. No, I get a card like once a year, once every 2 years, maybe. So
right.
that's
So
made
you're
it
like,
easy
okay,
for
well,
me.
that's true. That makes a big difference. Like for you, how often is there something new? Like maybe, Veil of Summer, occasionally that kind of card will come out. But yeah, I would imagine for the most part, that makes it a little bit easier as well than it is a deck where you're looking at 2 cards pretty frequently per set is what I wind up with for most of my decks on average, I would say.
Yeah. Well, you hit it on the head with Veil of Summer for sure. And yeah, like anybody who's wanting to get into alters, I guess foils are the same. Any way that you're going to bling out your deck, signatures are the same, right? Like if you're trying to upgrade a deck and you save up or trade up to like a Mox Diamond, for example, you need to know that that's the $300 you want to spend, right?
Right.
Or I'm going to spend $300 on this Mox Diamond just to go have the artist sign it and make it worthless to some
$5.
people,
Ooh.
right? To some
Right.
people. Some people pay a premium for that, but some people who don't want it, like I always ask people very pointedly multiple times, like, are you sure that you want me to alter this underground sea or this tropical island, right? Are you sure?
Ooh.
Because those absolutely then become much more difficult. It's one thing if how do you say his name? Is it Klug or is it Klug?
Eric Klug.
That Klug, that when the alters he does, those are probably pretty easy to turn around. But yeah, if you have somebody else alter that bayou of yours, it at the very least becomes much more difficult to find a buyer.
That's right. And I'm confident in my ability to add value to a card with an alteration of it. But for some people who might not know who CCO is or might not know how much work I've done in the past on cards, the market for that alter is a lot smaller. Lots of people contact me and say, well, how much more can I get for an altered card? Well, like you say, I'm not Eric Klug, who is kind of the most famous guy who does it. But if you have a beat up, like played in the sandbox underground sea, and I do an alteration on it to restore it essentially, like you can repaint the back and you can completely alter the front, it's going to be worth more than the $100 that it's worth now.
Right.
So,
good example, because I'm actually kind of looking for Underground Sea to have you alter.
oh yeah, I just did one like last just before Christmas. I finished one.
I think I saw you posted. You posted at least it was either a sea or a bot. You posted some dual land that you had done. So yeah.
Yeah, I did a set of 10 for a guy with a floating frame.
That's what it was.
They all had white borders, and you paint the card art just onto the white border, so it looks like the Magic card frame is floating on top of the art.
Those look really, really nice.
I really love that style. I do.
So you have a deck I think you're working on altering out as well. Is that correct, Max?
I am. I'm working on Tuvasa. It's going to be an all Ryan Peneff deck.
No,
Nice.
really? You didn't tell me that.
I know. Surprise, surprise. I had to save something for the end of the show.
Best Christmas ever!
So at the very least, Ryan, you've got work lined up from the two of us for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's huge. You know what? Like the multi-card commissions, the ones that I can space out, like if I get 5 or 6 people who all want, 8, 10 cards, and they set a pace like you have done, Dana, 1 card per week or 2 cards every 2 weeks when I get paid so I can pay you type thing. That is like key to success as a creator, is having that consistent work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or any tradesperson, right? Like as a tradesperson, you just move from job to job to job as you build things or fix things, right? As long as things need building or fixing or painting, in my case, on a consistent basis, that is the best case scenario for myself.
So, what's the strangest alter request you've ever had someone make?
Ooh. Was that in the show notes? I don't think it was.
It was not. I was just, it kind of has popped into my head here a couple of different times we've been talking, and I'm like, I'll just ask quick.
Oh, yeah. You know what? You even got another out of me. You know what? I don't do a whole ton of anime stuff. And
Okay.
that isn't like the traditional, anime chick in a bikini or with no clothes on or whatever. I've always turned that stuff down, save for one time on I think it was a foil unhinged. No, foil, what was the second one?
Unglued?
Unhinged was the second, because Unglued was the first one.
Okay.
It's a foil unhinged forest, where a guy wanted an anime lady on it, and I drew her. And
Tasteful.
Yes, it was tasteful how I drew her, and he requested it to be less tasteful.
Gotcha.
Which he was like, oh, I'm going to be super awkward here, but can you do this instead? So that happens lots of times. It's more so than awkward or weird. It's somebody thinks they want something, and I'll say, well, that kind of won't really fit. Like the arrangement that you want won't fit, or nobody's going to know what that random picture from a comic panel in an anime that only you read is going to be on this Rakdos card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. It's just, no, I'm not going to do it.
Well, not to keep complimenting you, but
please do.
You have recently been posting a bunch of alters that you've done throughout the year on Facebook, and that's where I think I saw those Nightmare alter of Shadowborn Apostles. But you mentioned the anime one too. I think you also posted, I think, was it a Batman or a Superman? There was some superhero one you had posted, I'm fairly sure.
Oh yeah, over the year I've done a Hulk. I've done 2 Black Panthers.
Yeah, there was definitely a Black Panther. That's what it was. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
of.
Black Panther on Windgrace. Both of them were Black Panther on Windgrace, which makes sense considering who Windgrace is.
But those are very different and disparate art styles, going from doing like Black Panther comic art to doing an anime to doing a borderless landscape or something on a land to doing that kind of Art Deco weird nightmare silhouette thing you're doing with those Shadowborn Apostles. Those are very, very different styles that you've all done a fantastic job making look like that's the primary thing you do. Like if you showed me any one of those alters and said this is primarily what Ryan does, he doesn't really have a style beyond that, I would have believed that because it looks good enough to believe that's the main thing you work on. And those are very different things, and they all look like the main thing you work on.
Well, you know what? As a as a person who's always looking to grow and develop, sometimes it doesn't feel that way. So if it appears that way, I guess the cat's out of the bag for me now.
You've successfully fooled at least me, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. I never feel like they come out quite the way I want, and I want to do better next time. So the quest for always growing and always improving, always tweaking your technique and growing your technique is important. And that's not just for painting, it's important for your job and your relationships and your deck building and everything. This sounds like an episode of Commander ad Populum now, but
a little bit.
It is true, because like you can't just float and you can't just go through the motions. You always have to, somebody's going to like what you do, and they're going to have some skill in painting or doing whatever you do. And they're going to say, well, I can do that. And they're going to come and take your job or steal some portion of your business or whatever it is, right? So you always have to be pushing yourself or the envelope or the industry, whatever it is.
Yeah, you bet. No, that absolutely is the only way to succeed, I think, in a lot of different fields.
Out of all those different styles, Ryan, is there one you prefer doing the most? I know you just kind of said you like to challenge yourself and change it up a bit, but is there one you prefer doing the most out of the three?
I like painting skies. I am from the land of the living skies. It literally says that on our license plates here. And I live out in the bald Canadian prairies, so I have 1,000,000 degrees of skies in every direction of where I am. So anything with skies and clouds I like. I like anything that feels scary. I like black and white stuff. I guess that kind of is a whole bunch of different stuff. Maybe that's why I paint a whole bunch of different stuff. I've never actually thought about that.
No, yeah, that totally makes sense, though. I mean, you have what you like.
You know what I don't like doing? I don't like doing a whole bunch of the same card all in a row. So when I first got this shipment of Shadowborn Apostles, like 30 of them, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How can I put a spin on this that's going to work for everybody, right?
Well, and I had you do that. I had you do like 7 basic lands, 7 islands, 7 swamps that were all very, very similar.
Oh, yeah, but they were all different a little bit, and I didn't do them all at once, right? Like, if there's somebody that's like, I need these for a Christmas present, and it's, December 14th, and they live in England, I'm going to need to do those today, and I'm going to need to send them express, like, today, right? I don't like doing that.
Well, I would say of the cards of yours I have altered, the ones I probably get the most comments on are those basic lands.
Oh, everybody loves lands. Everybody loves lands.
And the fact that they're the revised ones, the revised swamp, the revised island are really kind of striking anyway. And the pink on that island really pops out, and that swamp really looks great too. So those are definitely ones I do get a lot of great feedback from people on.
Yeah, and you know what else too? You know what else I like about those old revised stuff, or old cards in general, is they were traditionally painted. Not that I have anything against digital medium or a mixture of traditional and digital, but I really like working on stuff that was traditionally done with paint on paper or canvas. That to me just feels like I'm extending the painting instead of trying to make something new up.
Sure.
So I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, some of that old art is really, really interesting. And the stuff today is, I don't know if cleaner is the right word, but it does feel a little bit more precise.
Yeah.
In a way that you don't get back, with that earlier revised set kind of art.
Yeah, the art direction back in, let's say from 93 to 95 or 6 was non-existent. And then when they started to homogenize the art a little bit from a storyline perspective, so you knew who the characters were, and then they essentially eliminated all their in-house artists and hired contractors so they could pay them differently, and then the art direction started to homogenize with the story even more. Then when everybody started to paint digitally, the art direction was so specific in, this race needed to look like this. They needed to wear this kind of clothes. This is what this province looked like in Innistrad. This is what this building needs to look like, right? And those old pieces are not only varied and done in a traditional medium, but they're also iconic, right? Like if I say Christopher Rush Brainstorm from Ice Age, if I say Necropotence, if I say Lightning Bolt, if I say Black Lotus, like everybody knows what those cards look like. So if I have the opportunity to work on anything in that realm of the Magic kind of history verse, it's awesome for me. So if anybody wants any of that, let me know, because that's the stuff I love.
Yeah, you do great work with the new stuff and the old stuff, though. So if there's something people out there are wanting to have Ryan alter, he can successfully make it work. Ryan, thank you very much for filling in for Chris and guesting this week and being on the show. We do really appreciate it.
Oh, no
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
No problem. Oh, also, trash card, ban Soul Ring. Did I do it right?
You did it right. You did it right.
So if people want to find you online, where would they contact you at, Ryan?
Well, you can find me by the easiest way, because all the social medias are there. It's on commandercookout.com, or .com, as Brando would say. But Commander or CCO on Facebook, CCO on Twitter, commandercookout@gmail.com. And then for my solo stuff, and kind of where I run all of my just for sale alters, at CADPopcast on Twitter, CADPopcast@gmail.com, and Commander Populum on Facebook. Or just shoot me a friend request on Facebook with a message saying, hey, I'm interested in an alter. I'm literally the only Ryan Peneff on all of Facebook in the entire universe. So just find me and we'll start having a conversation.
All right. Excellent. Well, thanks again for joining us. We will have Chris back in the very near future. Maybe next week, we're hoping, Max. Is that right?
Along with a guest, I think.
Along with a guest. So, we had a guest lined up, and Chris was out of his cast as of a day or two ago. So he had something going on tonight, but we will hopefully have him back next week with a guest as well. So we'll make an announcement about that as it gets closer. But that's going to wrap up this show. Our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod, licensed via Creative Commons. Our show is edited by Rafael Garcia. You can find him on Twitter at Ursa Bearwalker. You can find me on Twitter at Dana Roach. You can find Max at CMDR_Max. And you can find Chris at WiseSquishy1. We'll be back on Thursday. Until then, I'm Dana.
And I'm Max.
And I'm Ryan.